Hey, everybody, welcome to a special edition of the Giant Zone. This is episode 16, and this is our special round one 2022 NFL draft recap show. We got a lot to do tonight, a lot to cover, so I'm going to make this brief. The only thing, like I ask on every show, is please keep up subscribing to our YouTube channel, and please keep up with the downloads and the 5-star ratings. That just helps us bring you more content and bring you good shows, and we really from the bottom of our hearts, we really appreciate all the support and all the kind words. And you know, anybody that wants to come on the show, just let us know. We'd love to have you on the show. We want to keep this going, guys. So, guys, that had to be probably one of the most exciting first rounds that I can remember.
Unbelievable.
I can't tell you how long. Aside from the Giants picks, guys, just the way that was coming at us and the changes, the trades, do you guys all agree that was a good first round?
100%.
Mitch, Tommy?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Steve?
I've all smiles, man. I still, yeah, it's like I took a drug, man. Not that I would know what that's like, but yeah.
How many of you guys got any sleep last night? Because I didn't get a wink.
I didn't get much. I had to be back up at 5 a.m. for work, man. I'm still tired, but I'm still smiling.
Yeah.
Well, get ready. It's going to be another fun night tonight, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely, brother.
This is all adrenaline. So, all right, guys. So I've asked you all to come prepared with a question. So let's jump right into this. So, Mitch, why don't you get going? I know you want to talk about teams in NFC. So what's your question?
Yeah, I want to know what you guys felt about how our division rivals did in the draft last night.
Who wants to start, guys? We'll go. Everybody's going to get a shot here. So who wants to go first? Tommy,
Yeah,
Rob?
I'll kick it off. It was interesting because Eagles got Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis, I was a huge fan of. You guys know that from previous shows. A huge defensive tackle. Tremendous speed and quickness for somebody that big. I think that was a big pickup for them. You get somebody like that clogs up the middle and the interior of that defensive line. Nobody's running up the middle against Jordan Davis. I think that was huge, to be honest with you, especially for a defense that struggled somewhat. I'm a big fan of his. You have the Commanders. The Commanders, to me, have probably, while they didn't have the best pick in the player of Johan Dotson, I had some receivers ranked ahead of Dotson. They had a trade back, and they got great value. So they gave up pick 11, right? They got back a 3rd rounder and a 4th rounder to move to pick 16, I believe it was. So they racked up. They got a solid receiver. Again, not the receiver I would have taken there, but they got a solid receiver, and they got 2 picks, 2 second-day picks. So I think the Commanders did a great job there. You also have, the trade for, almost left it out, for A.J. Brown for the Eagles, right? So the Eagles pick up Jordan Davis. They trade for A.J. Brown, a dominant receiver, right? So, we'll get to that later in the show, what the Giants need to do to counteract that. So I love the Eagles. I love the Commanders. Dallas with a good pick, too. Dallas picking towards the bottom of the 1st round. They get Tyler Smith out of Tulsa. Big, physical, mauling tackle. Those are hard to come by. We got ours last night, too. Cowboys have always been phenomenal at drafting offensive linemen, developing offensive linemen. They're known for the offensive line, and coincidentally, they've had the success to match. So I think the NFC East did really well. You got some stud receivers that came out now that we got to worry about covering and guarding. But I have no bad picks, no bad grades for any of the NFC East teams.
What do you say, Rob?
A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Let's put the Giants defense on notice. And I think as we discuss it later on, that's definitely going to impact our number 36 pick. Because there's a lot of arguments to be made as far as, cornerback or linebacker. So I agree with Mitch. I don't think there were any terrible picks. And I think the theme of last night's draft all around was coming home. A lot of local college players were picked by the state that they attended college in, and a return to home for the New York Giants. We're getting back to business, the old way, the big blue wrecking crew way of getting in the trenches, getting some big old guys on offense and big guys on defense to go and cause mayhem. So I don't think there was any terrible picks last night overall.
Steve?
I'm going to differ from Tommy and Rob a little bit. The way I thought about Mitch's question is I'm going to give out grades, but I'll give you real quick why. I'll just start with the best. I gave Philly an A, and I hate that, man. That just
Come on, Steve. Killer,
Hey,
bro. Killer.
Definitely.
freaking sucks. But they're good. What they're terrible at drafting wide receivers, so they said, "What the hell? Let's just go get one," and they did. The trade for AJ Brown. Listen, we all know what happens when you have a rookie quarterback on that contract. It gives you the flexibility to go out and overspend, and we'll get to this later. But that's one of the things. The NFL is a constantly evolving, living, breathing thing, and one of the things we're really starting to see this past offseason is these huge wide receiver contracts, right? So I wasn't shocked. Similar to Tommy, man, everybody saw my top 10 mock that I put out. I had Atlanta going Jordan Davis because I think that's what they need in that. I think he's a Vita Vea like on Tampa Bay when you have that D tackle in the middle, and he's even more athletic and bigger than Vita Vea. One of the reporters nicknamed him Godzilla. That just to me that perfectly
That's
summarizes.
a good one. That's a good one.
He is Godzilla. We now have to worry about him for the next 7, 8, 9 years, assuming the kid stays healthy. Fletcher Cox is 31. They released him and then they re-signed him. He's got a year, and then the other D tackle's only got a year left on his contract. So very smart. I give them an A. Next down, I give Washington a B+. What Washington did so reminded me of what we did last year with Kadarius. We traded down and got a wide receiver, maybe not one of the top 3 last year that was on everybody's boards. I agree with what Tommy said. Jahan Dotson, best hands in the draft, but they passed on Chris Olave. Supposedly the guy they really wanted was Drake out of USC, Drake London, and he was long gone. So I get it. To me, it's a B+. They made something out of nothing. They filled a need, and they got a great young wide receiver, but probably not the guy they really wanted. I gave Dallas a D. I don't get it. I don't understand what they're doing. Interior offensive line and right tackle is a huge need for Dallas. They lost Lael Collins. They have some other needs. They lost their best pass rusher outside of Micah Parsons. But Tyler Smith, man, yeah, he's a mauler. Huge project. Insane power, insane aggression, but 12 penalties in last season, terrible hand placement, terrible technique. He may play right tackle. They're probably going to try to plug him in there. I love it. Go ahead, put him at right tackle. He's going to be a turnstile for us, especially his rookie year. We're going to get after that quarterback then because this kid doesn't know how to pass, bro. He's a developmental project. Most people had him in the second round because of his physical traits and skills. So to pick him at the bottom of the first at 20, I think it was 24, right? I was like, wow. I mean, there were so many other great players that they could have taken, players that were the best in the draft at their position, and they passed. So I was shocked by Dallas. I think they reached for that position, but I think they fell in love with the kid and they didn't want him to get away. So I gave them a D for what they did.
So I agree with everybody else here. The Eagles, A++. Look, even despite the pick of Jordan Davis, getting AJ Brown, I mean, wow, nobody saw that coming. And if they did, that was really quiet. And in following up on that today, I heard that whole deal came about just hours before the draft. So, and that's that Eagles front office. They draft well, they scout well. They're really good player and talent evaluators. They always have been. Hopefully now we've got some of that in our front office. But that Jordan Davis, I would have liked to have seen him go anywhere except the NFC East with our rebuilding offensive line. He's going to kill our interior linemen. And we'll get into how that and their draft is going to affect our picks going forward. But hats off to them. I don't like them, but hey, you got to give credit. They do it. And they do it well. They find the players that fit. The Commanders, Jahan Dotson. Steve, you went B+. I'm going B-. Look, they gave Carson Wentz another weapon, so they're kind of doing what we're doing with Daniel Jones. They're going to give him every chance they can to succeed and to make that trade worth it. And I understand that. Yeah, I think he's a good player. Again, you mentioned it. Chris Olave was there, just begging to be picked. But we'll see. He may develop. And you know what? Given their other wide receiver that's going to play on the other side of him, this may actually work out very well for them. So B-, but I think they could have did a lot worse. Here's my take on Tyler Smith with the Cowboys. First of all, my jaw hit the desk so hard, I'm surprised you guys didn't hear it, because I had Devin Lloyd penciled in going to Dallas the entire
Yes.
Same here. Yep. Absolutely.
I was praying it wasn't going to happen, and I actually had to do a double take on the screen when they didn't pick him.
Yes.
But I'll tell you this. I didn't know much about Tyler Smith. I did a little bit of homework on him. And that story they told about him where they had to break his legs and oh my God. Hey, hats off to the kid just for overcoming all that.
Yeah.
But you know what? From what I've understand, teams had him rated a lot higher than a lot of these draft people. All right. These draft evaluators. So I'm going to kind of just take the high road there and get an incomplete until I see how he develops. And all right, maybe I'm taking the easy way out of there, but I got a sneaky feeling that 2 years, 3 years, he may actually be a solid player for them. So, that's just my take on that. Mitch, very quickly, you asked the question. What did you think?
Well, I'm going to go against pretty much every one of you on this one. Coming into the draft with Philadelphia having 3 first-round picks, all in the top 20, I was deathly afraid of what they could pull off. They could have had a linebacker, a corner, a wide receiver, and just totally revamp their team. And then they make the pre-draft trade with New Orleans. Granted, they got a first-round pick next year. Kudos to them for that. But what they did last night, I didn't particularly care for. Jordan Davis, yeah, he's a specimen for sure. But a 2-down lineman drafted at 13, you give up 4 picks, you give up 15, a 4th rounder, 2 5th rounders to get a guy that can't even handle 50% of the snaps in college. That would be my concern. Now, granted, his 50%, he's going to be a beast. I'll give you that. And then A.J. Brown was my favorite player in the NFL outside of the Giants. Now, of course, he's not. Now, being an Eagle. So that one upset me greatly. But I look at it this way. They're going to have to pay him upwards of $25 million per year to keep him satisfied. And then they traded another another 4th round pick out of there. So basically, they went from having 11 picks to 5 in this draft, and they come away with a 2-down lineman and a very nice wide receiver when he's healthy. And so we'll see how that pans out for them. Obviously, I'm rooting against them. Dallas, I'm right there with you, Steve. Tyler Smith, he's a project. He could turn out to be really good, but taking him in the 1st round seemed like a reach. So to be determined. Obviously, that's the way that these things go, but wasn't impressed with that. But I'm thrilled they did it because Jermaine Johnson was sitting there on the board. What I consider a top 10 pick. Why he fell all the way to the Jets is beyond me, and good for the Jets on that. I'm just thrilled that he didn't go to Dallas. And then Washington, I think that you get a nice return to drop back 5 spots, and Dotson's a nice wide receiver, but why take a wide receiver at that position when they desperately need corners and there's multiple corners on the board there? You can get a wide receiver in the 2nd round. That to me is where wide receivers reside, 2nd round.
Interesting.
So here's the thing, guys. So at the end of the day, Washington and Philly, I don't believe have quarterbacks. You can have all these nice parts and pieces around you, but are the quarterbacks going to be able to seal the deal? And that's my question. I don't believe so.
And you know, you're absolutely right. That was the one question that popped into my head upon hearing about the trade for AJ Brown was, all right, well, that's great. You got Devontae Smith, you got AJ Brown, but look who's throwing them the ball. So, you know, maybe they're trying to make us believe that Jalen Hurts is going to be the guy, and maybe they see something that we haven't yet. I don't know. It remains to be seen. But yeah, it's a solid point everybody raises there. So, Mitch, good start. Rob, why don't you go ahead into your question, because I'm waiting for this one, baby.
All right, since we're going to be doing grades here, I'll do something that was a little bit counterintuitive. I think, and this segues into the next question. I gave the Giants, because they had picks 5 and 7 last night. I started them at an A+, and it was their A+ to lose. And so because they didn't make a phenomenal 7th pick trade situation, that's why I gave them an A-. Okay, so Shane did the sensible thing. Shane and company did the sensible thing. They took sensible picks, didn't do anything crazy. Okay. Everybody, I think, in the Giants fan base is happy that they didn't do anything crazy. They made sensible picks, nothing crazy like what we've been used to for the past 10 years. Tonight, I think, is what's going to make or break the initial, at least, impact of how the fan base truly feels about Shane and Dable and the ownership and how they're really working together. So what do we need to do tonight, guys, with picks 36, 67, and 81?
So I'm going to jump into this, guys, to start this. So pick 36, look, I am laser focused on Nakobe Dean. He's there. I've liked him all season. Didn't think we'd even be talking about him at this point, to be very honest with you. But if I'm afraid of Tampa, I don't know why. I'm afraid of Tampa taking him. If we don't, for some reason, get him, I actually think we go cornerback. We improve our secondary. And the guy that I like, who I actually think should have been taken in the first round, is Kyla Gordon out of Washington. I actually was surprised when Kansas City traded up and took McDuffie as opposed to Gordon. I thought Gordon was the better of the two. So I think if we come away round 2 with either one of those, I'm very pleased. Round 3, I kind of changed my thinking because I've been saying all along, maybe round 3, we look to go receiver, maybe tight end. But you know what? In a rebuild, round 3, you need players that are going to start. You need starters. Never mind depth. You need production. So I think whichever way we don't go round 2, if we don't get Dean, maybe we look to go linebacker round 3. We get Dean. I think we go cornerback. I still wouldn't rule out a trade back into the second round from the Giants either. One of those 3 picks. It gets packaged and we come back in the second round. Couple players quickly I like though. I like Gordon more than I do Booth. I think he's a more solid player. Darian Kennard, offensive tackle from offensive guard from Kentucky. I got my eye on him. I also like Kway Walker out of Penn State. Again, I'm trying to build that offensive line. I like some of that interior strength, especially with what the Eagles did last night. I also like Dylan Parma out of Memphis. So I think you got to stay with the plan here. And the plan all year is rebuild the interior, rebuild the foundation. So those are my plans for round 2 and 3. Mitch, go ahead. Why don't you take this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely looking corner in the second round, Booth or Gordon, but Watson is really intriguing. The big wide receiver out of North Dakota State. And I don't know that he falls all the way to the third round, but certainly I think they need to address the corner position there. Come the third round, if they don't go corner, I like Kobe Bryant out of Cincinnati. And I'm really concerned about the defensive line. There's really nothing on the roster outside of Lawrence and Leo. So I like Travis Jones out of UConn. And then going into the second pick in the third round, I think it's a sweet spot for safeties. You got Brian Cook out of Cincinnati, Nick Cross from Maryland, and Kirby Joseph. But and then of course you could get some interior linemen too. So I think that's what we do tonight.
Steve?
So I'm going to answer this first with what have we learned? And then when I think about what we've learned about Shane and Dable and their staff, that helps understand, like if you study history, it's like, okay, well, that helps us understand what they're probably or potentially going to do. In the last couple of podcasts, every time we've had this type of conversation about what the Giants going to do in the draft, I said, look to history. Look what Shane has said and Dable have said in the pressers, and then look at what they did together in Buffalo and Miami. I made the comment during the last segment, the last question, that the NFL is constantly evolving. And one of the things that I love that Shane said recently, this past week, was before the draft, he talked about team construction and positional value. And we've seen that play out. Like I just made that comment about wide receivers now getting these ridiculous contracts. Yeah. Everybody knows, they've seen our podcast. Team construction is like one of my pet hobbies. Like I don't know why. It fascinates me how they put the team together and it changes, right? Like it used to just be left tackle and quarterback. Those were and then edge rushers got big contracts. Well, now we're seeing the shift. Running backs are a dime a dozen, and these things change, right? It's fluid. And then the second part of that is, I made the comment about preparation. My guess, and I've said this several podcasts in a row when we've talked about it, is I'm telling you, I have a feeling these guys literally have taken 80 to 90 of the 300 players and said, these are our guys. These are the guys that are going to fit in our schemes offensively and defensively with Wink and Kafka and Dable behind that, and B, culture, and we overuse that word, the type of guys who, I really believe that. And I think that preparation we've now heard in the last 24 hours. What a beautiful thing to hear about these guys talking about how when Thibodeau was there, plus those two tackles, they didn't hesitate. They had already played out all the scenarios, right? And they've talked about it since last night. So why do I say all that? Because I think and Shane actually said it in the last 24 hours. They asked him about, they asked him last night in the press, like, what are you going to do tomorrow, beginning of round 2? He's like, well, we're picking 4th and there's 4 guys we want. And if those 4 guys, whichever one is there, that's what we're going to go with. I personally wanted them potentially to trade down because I don't know that there's 4 players. I feel like there's 2. Nakobe Dean and Andrew Booth are the 2 that I love. When I think about the value board and everything I've read and my own thoughts, I'm like, man, what I love about what they did in the first round is they didn't force it, right? They let the draft come to them, but they prepared. It's all about preparation. I think that's where we can feel so good about these guys versus the prior regimes. They prepared. So I think it's going to be one of 3 things. I think there's the guys that they want are going to be there. And maybe it's a smokescreen that they said that there's 4 guys. There really are 2. Then there's a second tier, the Breece Halls, the Christian Watsons. There's defensive ends, like everyone knows, Boye Mafe I've been talking about. Does he fit into our 3-4, 4-3? But he's in this intense, physical, ascending pass rusher. But do we need another pass rusher? We just got Thibodeau. Sky Moores of the world. I don't want them to overdraft. So do they pick one of those players regardless? Or talk about how last night, if things didn't work out, he had 3 teams lined up that he had as potential trade partners. My hope is that coming into tonight, they already have potential trades lined up, just like last night, he said. So I see 2 players that I would love. Who knows what their value board is? He made the comment last night that there's 4 players, so it doesn't matter which of the 4. Who knows if he's BSing or not? But I wouldn't be opposed to a trade down. Again, as I said, going into the draft last night with pick 7, I was open to a trade, but please just don't trade down too far. I feel the same way. So that's how I feel about round 2. I don't see a lot of players at that pick 36 that I want. I hope they trade down if they don't feel the value is there. And then in the 3rd round, I agree with a lot of what you guys said. inside linebackers, the Chad Mumas, the Leo Chanels, safeties, interior offensive line. And Mitch, I think there's a couple defensive tackles like the kid out of UConn, but I think they're going to be long gone by the third round. And the one thing that we haven't said yet, but I think obviously we need some tight ends. And I think that second pick in the third round is where we're probably going to get a phenomenal young tight end prospect. So,
Tommy, what do you say?
Damn, Steve, I feel like you took every player with that one, man. You wiped me out on that. No, good job, Steve. The one area I will disagree respectfully is I think we should stay put. I want to stay put at 36. The NFL is a full-bloom passing league now. We've seen that last night. Receiver was the dominant position in the first round. You had I think it was 4 or 5 receivers taken in the first round. You had 2 trades. You had Hollywood Brown. You had A.J. Brown. This is a full-blown passing league. With the trade of James Bradbury possibly looming over us, doesn't leave us much in the way of depth in the secondary. You know, we have Adoree Jackson, we have A-Rob, we have Rodarius Williams, but that's it. You know, so we have 1 proven, often injured cornerback and 2 young kids. So I'm going with Andrew Booth, 36 out of Clemson. I love the kid. You know, rangy, sticky onto the receivers, fluid hips, doesn't get spun around, able to track the ball in space, in the air. I love the kid. I actually had him with a mid-first round grade when I did my rankings 2 months ago. I'm shocked he's still there. I think McDuffie edged him out for that later cornerback pick at the end of the first round. But I love Andrew Booth. And listen, you team him up. You have Adoree Jackson. You never know what you get out of the other 2 kids. Those 2 kids could be stars. We don't know. But I think you need to put more there. If you want to compete in the division, which to get to the Super Bowl and to the playoffs, you got to get through your division. You're going to be going against A.J. Browns, the Dotsons, the Terry McLaurin, C.D. Lambs. Get your cornerback at 36. Don't worry about it. Don't trade down. You still have 2 third-rounders to go after it. And with those 2 third-rounders, I think proposes an interesting situation here, Carl. You could trade back up into the second round. Like Steve said about the 4 guys you want. Those 4 guys you want might turn into 3 guys. You might say, you know what? I like that 3rd guy a lot better than the 4th. We're gonna risk, you know, we'll minus 1 guy out to get that better one. So I think a trade back into the second round is possible. If we don't, I'm going offense with the next 2 picks. I need a tight end. We wiped out the tight end room this offseason. We did pick up Seals Jones. I think Seals Jones is a nice depth rotational piece that could come in and sub out. I go Trey McBride out of Colorado State, the most complete tight end in the draft. Good blocker, soft hands. He has the height, he has the strength, big frame, really, really solid tight end. And if he slips to pick 67, I mean, you run up there to give your card. Now you have your tight end, you have your running back, quarterback. We got our receivers intact. I think that tight end also, you know, one of the things that doesn't get spoken about a lot is the tight end's impact on blocking with the offensive line. You line a stud tight end up, covering up that right tackle, that left tackle. All of a sudden, you're moving zones, sweeps to that left, right side, and it's money in the bank. So I think that's why you take Trey McBride, because he is so balanced. He does give you both ends of the spectrum. With pick 81, I'm going to go a little bit left field here on you guys. I'm going to go, and you got, and any viewers of the show, previous show I was on, I'm going to go James Cook, running back out of Georgia. A little high at 81. I'd love to get him in the 4th round. But listen, you got a team that's probably going to be running a lot of 11 personnel. They're going to want the running back out of the backfield. They're going to want the running back in the slot, out of the seams. I watched film on this kid yesterday. Unbelievable, guys. Soft hands, quick feet, can catch in traffic. Phenomenal. I think you put him back there with Jones. You solidified the offensive line for the most part. Listen, we got Jones and Barkley basically in contract years here, right?
We do.
We need to help them out. We need to see what they have. Listen, I think them not picking up the 50-yard option on Jones says a lot. It's showing proof time. You get him to pieces. You got the bookend tackles now, right? You go get yourself a tight end. You go get yourself another running back to sub out for Barkley. We know health-wise he struggles to stay on the field. He's explosive when he's on, but he's off more than he is on. So I think those 3 picks, you solidify the defense, especially in case you trade Bradbury. You get your 2 offensive pieces to go with Neal, and boom, there we go the rest of the way.
Carl,
I'm sorry, Steve, go ahead.
Before we move off Tommy, just one point of clarification, if you could help me understand. You start off by saying respectfully we disagree. I think you and I actually agree. I think we both love Booth. My concern is you sound like Booth is the guy. My question to you is help me understand what happens if Booth isn't there. What if the 3 teams ahead of us,
Right.
Tampa Bay, Minnesota, Tennessee,
Right.
what if they, so
That's
what do you want if they take Booth and he's not
Yeah,
there
that's
for us?
That's an excellent point, Steve. That's something that, on Twitter, a lot of people are talking about. A lot of people are like, I want A, B, and C. We got our choice of, well, wait a minute here. We don't have the first pick in the second round now. Take a breather. So in that case, my backup option would be Nakobe Dean, middle linebacker out of Georgia. Listen, I know he's undersized. I know he has some issues, some flaws here and there. He was a leader his entire career in Georgia, championship football player, intelligent. He has the pedigree. Yes, again, he's a little undersized for the position. You got Dexter Lawrence covering him up there in the middle of the defensive line. I love Nakobe Dean. I'll say this, Steve, and I'll end it on this note. I like those 2 players enough to not trade back. That's why I respectfully disagreed.
Yeah, and what I was saying is those are the same 2 that I love, but if they're not there, then I'm like, crap, I'd be open to trading back, just not too much.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just
Listen. We could all say who we want to pick. We don't know how the board shakes out.
Yeah.
You might get there and have player AB that you didn't like at all. So yeah, absolutely.
And Steve, and that's where I think your point about he's already got trades in place comes into play. If they have, and I think you're right. I think there's 2 players they're focused on there, and if they're gone, he's going to move. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Rob, you asked the question. What do you think? We didn't forget about you, buddy.
I'm going to stick with what I said during our first podcast. I think we should take the best available defender, preferably the best available linebacker. Who do we have? Blake Martinez is a question mark. Who do we have? Tay Crowder. So if I were to be able to pick, it would obviously be Nakobe Dean. And then, like you said, Chad Muma.
Yeah.
I also like Alabama Christian Harris.
Yes, that's a good one, Rob. Christian
And then
Harris,
Troy Anderson. So I'm going to stick with my guns and say the best available linebacker at 36. And, as Steve was saying in the beginning, positional values change. And in this particular scheme that Dable and Kafka and all them are going to want to run, I don't really value the running back as much. I mean, I think we can go in the later rounds and get a decent tight end running back. I still want to dig in. I still want to get a good linebacker. I want us to get some guards. I want us to fill in from the inside out.
Yeah.
Hey, not to get off
because
topic,
I still think, because Steve, you're a banker, right? I mean, help me here. I mean, you're a banker, right? So you know about creative financing. How do we keep Bradbury and make it work this year, and then get a good linebacker? To your point, because Shane and company wants to be competitive today while rebuilding for tomorrow. So I think there's a lot of creative financing options. Correct? Help me here, banker.
I don't know, man. The whisper talk out there is Bradbury's gone by the end of the weekend. I don't see how.
I agree.
They've been saying that for the past 6 months.
No, he's going to be gone. That's $13 million they need to free up, and yeah.
Boy, wouldn't you love to see them get a pick tonight for Bradbury?
That'd be nice.
I don't see it happening, but boy, wouldn't you love to see maybe like a third for Bradbury? And
It's really a buyer's market out there for, and Shane is not. He is sticking to his guns, and he has stuck to his guns. So I don't see him trading out.
Mitch, you're stoic about this, brother. What do you want us to do with Bradbury?
Unfortunately, I'm with Rob. I'd like to figure out a way to keep him, but I just don't see that as possible. So absolutely, let's get a pick tonight and replace him with one of these good corners that's still available.
Yeah.
But Steve, can't we extend him for a year and kick some money down the road and make? I mean, there's going to be, do something like that. There's a way to make it work. Way to keep him. He's a solid player. I mean, what other cornerback are you going to get to replace him?
Yeah, but remember what Shane said, right? Coming into this job, he wants to avoid that. So there's really 2 other major contracts. I thought Slayton would have been gone by now.
Saquon and
the other 2 ones are
Bradbury.
Leonard Williams and Galladay. And the whole point is, the problem, guys, is once you restructure or extend, now you're creating additional dead money that makes it that much hard, takes away your flexibility. So the whole beautiful thing about these guys coming into this job is it's a clean slate. Gettleman left them in a quagmire, true. But now if DJ, they didn't extend DJ, right? So now going into next year, if they wanted to franchise tag DJ, they could, in theory, if the kid kills it this year. And I hope he does, but Nobody knows. So if they move off him, we can either get someone in the draft, or we could do what the Rams did when they got Stafford, or these other teams did when they traded for Russ. And I mean, we're going to have the salary cap, like 100 million or something huge, to make a financial commitment to a great quarterback, where, because you don't know how the league's going to play out. There could be drama where, and Aaron, not that we want Aaron Rodgers, but you just don't know. You don't know a Deshaun Watson, a Russell Wilson, a great quarterback is willing and is like, I want to get out of here. And all of a sudden the Giants are like, look what we've built. We have a beautiful foundation. Come to Papa. And we have the salary. You start restructuring what seems like it makes sense today could prevent you from doing something beautiful next year. Like, oh my God, getting some huge quarterback that could be the game changer for us. And I'm not saying that's the way to go. Hopefully DJ works out. If he doesn't, maybe we get a great quarterback in the draft. But like I've said a couple of weeks in a row, Carl, you've heard me say it, there's going to be like almost 15 teams thinking the same thing. Oh, we'll get a great quarterback next year. Yeah. All 15 teams are thinking the same thing.
For 3 quarterbacks, 4 quarterbacks, whatever it is. You're exactly right, Steve.
So that's my problem with the restructuring.
Tommy, what do you have? What's your question, buddy?
Yeah, so I was tasked with the spicy question tonight, right? So I put this on Twitter earlier, and listen, the elephant in the room, we're picking at 36. We did not apply the 5th-year option to Daniel Jones. He has struggled, 1, in his ability, and 2, in his availability to stay on the field. You come up at 36, Malik Willis is sitting there, kid with a big arm, can make all the throws, can throw off platform, tremendous value at 36. What do you guys do?
Who wants to start with this one? Mitch, why don't you take us off on this one?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely intriguing. And the thing is, if you take Willis, you better have a game plan for him. And, Carl and I were talking about this before our podcast a few weeks back. The one thing that would concern me is all the talk has been they're on board with Jones. Jones is our quarterback, even though they said for right now. What does it tell him and the rest of the team if they go out and draft his replacement while he's still here? That would be one of my main concerns with it. But Willis is absolutely electric, huge arm. I would not be upset if that's what they go with at 36.
Rob?
So a few different things here. So I believe that Daniel Jones, I'm in the minority here. I think he's going to do tremendously well this year because he's not been put in the proper scheme. He's not been put in the proper scheme. I think that's number one. To go to your point, the banker, if say it doesn't pan out, any competitive quarterback is going to want to go to a competitive team. And to me, while Malik Willis is an intriguing option, I think there's too many holes that need to be filled to make the team competitive. So I would definitely pass. And to your point, Mitch, culturally, I know Steve, you don't like using that word, but it's a very good word, culture building. If you're telling the media that we're behind this guy and the owner's saying we didn't do what we needed to do to put him in this position to succeed, and then we draft a quarterback, that's losing credibility within the organization. And I think it degrades the trust that they're trying to build with the new regime. So that's why I'm passing on Malik at 36.
Steve?
So I think there's a calculus they're doing, not to use a too fancy word, but I really do. I think these guys are so smart and so experienced and so thoughtful, right, about how they construct the team, that they think like chess, like, okay, if we do this, 2 steps ahead, what does that mean?
Right.
So Rob, like you said, I actually have a couple things, and I'll be brief, I promise. One, how long would it take to develop him? We saw the Cardinals do that with Rosen. Literally a year later, they moved off and realized, oop, made a mistake there, and then they got Kyler. Did the Giants want to risk that? Number 2, the slot for that pick is $9.165 million. $3.8 million is signing bonus, $1.6 million against the cap. I heard somebody today say they would for sure have to trade Daniel Jones because you already have a backup making significant money. Then you got DJ still on his rookie contract, but he's making nice money it's his final year. And then you would be signing this kid. It would be too much money of the team when you look at team construction committed. So I agree with Rob, what you said. what is the message that it sends? Maybe it was Mitch. I apologize. The message that it sends them. But I also think from a purely numerical standpoint, you're committing that much money to the quarterback room. I think that's problematic on both fronts. How does he compare to the 2023 crop? I think they've clearly put some thought into that. These guys are super smart. The scouts are already looking at next year's crop of kids. That's what scouts do. They actually look a year in advance. So I don't think in a normal year, we would have even talked about Malik Willis that much. I mean, if this was the year Justin Herbert came out, nobody would even talk about Malik Willis. It's because it was such a poor year. And then it takes away some of that flexibility for a free agent or a trade. So I think if they pick him this high still in the top of the second, they're putting their reputation that this is our guy. Why in the world would they do that? And I get it. He has sick physical traits. I'm not arguing that. Anyone can read that and see it, like the Senior Bowl in the rain, ridiculous. But playing quarterback is so much more than that, I mean, we see these guys, the Kurt Warner, I go back to Kurt Warner, I heard him talk in the NFL. The guy played at Iowa State, went to a developmental league, came back. Kurt Warner didn't have the strongest arm. Guy's a Hall of Famer. There's plenty of examples of, Tom Brady his arm is stronger now than it was when he came into the league. It's not just about arm strength. And I know that's the sexy thing everybody talks about is your legs and your arm strength, but he has so much to work on. His intermediate throws are terrible. Why pick a project? It just doesn't make sense. These guys are on a clean slate. Why mess it up?
So I'm going to kind of piggyback onto the discussion about the cultural aspect of this. All right. So what message does it send? These guys, it's their first year here. The last thing that they want to do is come in there and give mixed messages, and that locker room is a mess from day one. And the way that spreads like a cancer. So I agree. I think the cultural aspect of this is very important. In addition, quite honestly, all we heard leading up to the draft was Malik Willis. Malik Willis is going to be great. Going to be here we are, round 2. Malik Willis is still on the board. So again, I don't think it's just the Giants that are looking at it from the same perspective of, well, you know what? Maybe he's really not that good. Maybe he's just not ready yet. I'm not saying he's not going to be a great pro. And, side point here, I saw that story on ESPN, I think it was, about him yesterday. What a fabulous kid. I mean,
unbelievable.
He's a man of faith. What he's doing for that young girl. I mean, I think he's phenomenal. He earned so much of my respect. Sorry, Tommy. He earned so much of my respect when I saw that. And I just don't think this is the place at 36. I don't think this is the team for him right now. I wish him all the success in the world just for the person that he is. But I think they came out and said they were committing to Daniel Jones. And I think the steps that they took in free agency, and you're drafting, you drafted Evan Neal. I think they're being man of their word here by saying, hey, and again, the owner came out and said, we failed him. And I think that they're sticking to that. And I honestly believe that, just as intriguing as a prospect as he is, he's not for us. This is not the fit for us. So I'm on board with everybody else. Tommy, what do you think? You asked the question.
It's a tough one for me, Carl. I'm a huge Daniel Jones supporter. I've supported him since his first snaps against the Jets in the preseason, and 6 for 6 with a touchdown on that drive. This is a tough one because I do think the declining of the 5th-year option was the first opening kind of salvo into the franchise saying, hey, we're going to pump the brakes a little bit and you're going to have to show us what you got. I think for that reason specifically, they're not going to take Malik Willis. Also, on a more bare point of view on it, his weaknesses as a quarterback. I've scouted Malik Willis since his junior year, even prior to that, his sophomore year. He has great intangibles. The one thing I've noticed that he's never improved on is his pre and post snap reads, which will absolutely destroy you in the NFL. Struggles making adjustments at the line, struggles calling audibles at the line, struggles getting the ball to the hot read. Can he throw off platform? Yes. Can he throw a rocket 70 yards? Yes. But if you're not making the right reads, if you're not making the right adjustments, if you're not getting the right guys open, thanks to the play calls and the changes and the hots at the line, doesn't matter how far you could throw it. Also has bad eyes. I've noticed bad eyes, and I love the kid. Listen, I think if he gets drafted to the right situation, the right team, I think he could be a star in this league eventually, but it has to be the perfect situation. The New York Giants are not the perfect situation. We have holes. We need to address those holes before we even think of quarterback. And Steve brought up a good point money-wise. We're at $6.5, $7 million in cap space. We need to get to about 7-18. So we're just going to dump another, $8, $9 million on a quarterback just to have him, Jones, and Tyrod Taylor sitting there, or you trade Jones. I don't think it happens. I think for all the reasons you guys mentioned, and for the very base of the fact that he struggles and he played at a small school, didn't put up great stats at a small school. He didn't have those huge numbers that you see some of these college football quarterbacks have, 50 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He didn't have it. Did he play with a disgraceful offensive line? Yes. It's probably one of the worst offensive lines I've ever seen in watching any team on tape. You're talking about multiple missed assignments on plays, multiple linemen missing them. But at the end of the day, he didn't get it done enough in my eyes, and that's why he slipped, and that's why 32 teams passed on him. I wouldn't touch him.
Tommy, all of the concerns you just shared about Malik Willis, they sound exactly like all of the concerns and things we've been trying to fix with Daniel Jones over the past few years.
Yeah, no, it's not a bad point. Listen, there's a reason they didn't pick up the option. I do think Jones does some things better that Malik Willis doesn't. I think Jones does have decent processing pre and post snap. Not as much post snap. I do like his pre snap. I think he has average eyes. But yeah, I wouldn't argue with you. I wouldn't put him a lot further along than a Malik Willis because he just hasn't proven it. And he hasn't been on the field enough and he hasn't developed enough. The question is have we given him the opportunity? Is he bad at these things because he's not a good quarterback? Or does he have bad eyes because he's getting rushed within a millisecond? Is he throwing interceptions because the receivers are running the wrong routes or they're running into each other on planned routes? Or Evan Ingram dropping balls for interceptions and fumbles? That's what we're going to see this year. And that's why the team didn't give him that fifth-year option. They're just not sure, just like you and I are. And I love the kid, but he hasn't done enough yet.
Can I ask you guys, all four of you guys, a question about Malik Willis?
Yep.
We saw Aaron Rodgers do this in Green Bay when he was drafted behind Brett Favre. We saw Trey Lance drafted behind Garoppolo. We've seen this time and again how sometimes it's not what team drafts a quarterback specifically, it's what team drafts a quarterback and what type of environment or situation they're being drafted into. What are the three teams being drafted tonight ahead of the Giants? All three teams have a playoff caliber starting quarterback. Brady in Tampa,
Right.
Kirk Cousins in Minnesota. Doesn't matter whether we think we can get to a Super Bowl or not. He's a playoff caliber quarterback. And Tannehill, who again flopped in the playoffs last year, but he's a playoff caliber quarterback for Tennessee in the final year of his contract. He's 36 years old. How crazy would it be, do you think, yes or no? We're having this conversation. Tommy, I'm glad you asked it, but maybe it's moot. What are the odds? And I think it's like 90% not going to happen for so many reasons we talked about tonight. But what if one of those three teams says, you know what, we have our starter. We have a great quarterback right now. Those guys aren't Brady, but varying levels of greatness. Why not draft this kid and let him develop and sit for at least a year or more behind Kirk Cousins, Tom Brady? Would you be shocked if that happened?
No.
Nope.
I actually thought for a minute Minnesota may take him last night.
No.
I think Tampa's the perfect situation.
So
it's a good situation. Tampa with Brady, great offense. That's a great situation, man. I would love to see the kid get into a situation.
So just to make sure we get everybody, Tommy, you said you wouldn't be shocked. Tampa in particular. Carl, you said no, you wouldn't be shocked.
I wouldn't be shocked.
Mitch, I think I heard you say you wouldn't be shocked.
Well, Tampa, I agree with Tommy, is the right situation for him with Byron Leftwich as the OC down there. What I was saying no to was there's no way Minnesota takes him for what you were talking about, the money-wise. They're on the hook for I think, $80 million on Cousins. To bring him in behind him is asinine, to be quite honest. And then
What about Tennessee?
Maybe.
He reminds some people of Steve McNair, and I think we're all men of a certain age. We remember how great Steve McNair was.
Absolutely. Rest in peace. Great
Rob, what do you think?
I would be shocked.
Okay.
And I'll use the example last night of Kenny Pickett. I think I heard an analyst say, and I don't know who it was, that if this were the year prior, Kenny Pickett would have been maybe a 3rd or 4th round pick.
There you go.
And if that were the case, then where would Malik Willis be?
5th.
And for that, I just don't see it. So I would be shocked.
That's a good point.
Okay.
I think there's too much value up there.
And that's fair. I was curious. I was thinking,
Yeah, I would be shocked.
and it would be great for us because then Booth or Dean may one of those guys.
I thought the question was, would you be happy? I'm like, my hat's off to you. You know, I'm good. I'm happy for you.
Best of luck.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
To piggyback onto
Hope
that,
that works out for you.
would any of you be surprised if somebody tries to trade up in front of us to take him?
Yes.
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 Yeah. I think they'll let him come to them, honestly.
Right. I
Yeah, I
think
don't
the
see it.
NFL. I'm sorry, Tom.
No,
Go
you guys.
ahead, Mitch.
I was just saying, I think the NFL has spoken. You know, all the draftniks were putting Willis in the top 10, and here he is still sitting on the outside looking in. So who's giving additional capital to go up and get him?
True.
Fly Guy, you made a very good point in the midpoint of this podcast. You said there's a big difference between, podcast or draft research and NFL scout research, having access to the medicals and things that we just don't have access to.
Right. And going back to the whole Daniel Jones thing, I think Daniel Jones is more accurate. To be honest with you, I think he throws it better. I think he's more accurate.
Absolutely, Carl. Yeah, I
And-
left that one
no
out.
doubt.
Absolutely.
And I'm not a fan, and I don't want to nitpick. Again, I like Malik Willis, the person. I don't want to nitpick, and I think he may be a decent quarterback in this league, but I don't like his throwing motion. He almost he's not coming over. It almost looks like he's sidearming it a little bit. I don't. That could be coached. I understand that, but it's just in the conversation and the whole comparison. I don't like that. That scares me as well. So
Fly Guy, the way you like Malik Willis is the same way I like Daniel Jones. He's a leader. He's smart, tough. He needs to work on the dependability. He's the first there. He's the first guy to show up, the last one to leave. He does everything that you want a franchise quarterback to do.
right. Agreed. Good face of the
Except win.
yeah.
I took the words out of my mouth.
And stay healthy.
Let's give Jones a competent OC that can do some play calls. I mean, what we've seen the last 2 years has been pathetic.
Yeah. And a line that
And
can
also, I think something that's understated too is Daniel Jones' best year was 2019 with Eli Manning in his ear on the sideline. Since then, what quarterback has he really had behind him? He's had Colt McCoy, Mike Glennon, Jake Fromm. He's got a capable quarterback behind him now. One to push him competitively, and one to be on the sideline with him like, hey, did you see that? Did you see that split? Did you see that zone? Whatever it might be. And you got Mike Kafka, who was a former quarterback coach with the Chiefs, very successful with Mahomes. I think that support system that Jones has this year is going to set apart some of the seasons in the past for him. I really do.
Tom, yeah, I really like his unofficial coach in Davis Webb.
There you go.
Davis
Rob,
Webb,
beat me
baby.
to it, Rob.
Can't forget about the Webb.
Yeah. So Steve, go ahead. What's your question for tonight?
All right, guys. Real easy. 20, 30 seconds or less, sound bites. What were your 3 surprises from round 1? Let's just keep it to 3 each.
Go ahead, Rob.
No surprises.
None?
None.
Well, that's less than 20 seconds.
Tommy?
I'm gonna go 1, Willis dropping out of the first round completely. 2, the run on wide receivers, though we should have seen it because of the contracts and the free agency. And 3, I never forget my first podcast with you guys, and we were going over sleepers and bust. And I said I didn't like George Karlaftis. I said I wasn't a fan of his. At the time, he was projected to go top 5, top 7, and he slipped to, 27, 28? I don't remember the exact pick, but he slipped far, and that was a surprise. I didn't think he'd go that far.
Mitch?
Kway Walker picked before Lloyd. That shocked me.
That's a good one.
All 3 tackles on the board at 5. Dream scenario. That was beautiful. And Cole Strange taken in the first. Very surprised by that. I'm excited about him. I think he's going to be a really nice player. But in the first round, shocking.
So mine are Jermaine Johnson dropping the way he did.
It's a good one, yeah.
Quite honestly, I thought Atlanta taking who they take again?
Drake London.
London. I actually thought Atlanta should have went pass rush there. Least amount of sacks in the league last year. Third one, I've been struggling. I'm going to start right at the top. Trayvon Walker. I think that shocked me, to be honest with you. So those are my 3. Steve?
Everybody else went? Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So my 3. The first one is the biggest for me. The risks that teams took that had huge needs. So my 2 examples, so it'll be more obvious when I explain. Jacksonville at 1 taking Trayvon Walker, and Houston taking Stingley at 3.
Yeah.
We know what their traits were. We know what Stingley did in 2019, but neither of them were the perfect prospect. We know what everyone's beef was with Trayvon. The production didn't match the traits. The kid was like a projected second-round pick a year ago when the season began. And what that tells me is these teams who had huge holes to fill, right? I mean, Houston and Jacksonville have huge holes to fill. They could have gone in so many directions. Their staffs, their new staffs, must really trust their talent evaluation and development to take those chances. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson, what you're getting is a sure thing. I mean, there were a couple of guys right in the top 5. To me, I would have taken Sauce if I'm going to take a corner. Like Stingley is, oh my God, he ended up having a good pro day, but still, like really, like he needs a mentor. So the risks that teams took at the top of the draft, which worked out beautifully for us, right? But that specifically, I think, is why they did what they did. And I didn't think both of them would do that. I really thought Atlanta was going to take Jordan Davis. I thought that they really need to beef up, similar to us, but in a different way than us. They need to beef up that trench in the middle of that defense, the center field of that defense, starting at the base. I thought Jordan Davis, Godzilla, was perfect for them. I agree, Mitch, with something you said earlier. He was a 2-down lineman in college. I think Alabama exposed that. But listen, you put him in a pro program. You could have said the same thing about Vita Vea in college, and look what he's done for that Tampa Bay defense. I think that's what I think Jordan Davis is special, and he's going to get developed. So the fact that Atlanta passed on him, I get why they took Drake London, but if you're going to take a wide receiver, that's the receiver they're taking. Yeah. I was just shocked. And then no quarterback until the 20th pick. Pittsburgh was an obvious choice for quarterback, but I thought for sure somebody would overpick Malik. Desmond, I don't know. Like Desmond Ridder is not worth up there. I mean, I don't think there were more than 2 quarterbacks, but I thought somebody was going to do something stupid, and they didn't, and I was shocked.
Yeah.
So,
which was great.
I'm gonna end it with my question, and it's a 2-part question, guys, and we got a little bit of time here left before the draft kicks off, so let's try to keep it quick. But I want to know what you guys thought was with the best pick of round 1, and then follow that up with which team do you feel had the best night? All right, so let's go. Rob, why don't you start it off?
I think the best pick of the night was Detroit grabbing Aiden Hutchinson, and I think the Jets had the best overall night.
Tommy?
Damn, man, he stole my thunder. Holy cow. Listen, Rob, you're on point, brother. You're on point. But I'm gonna one up you on this one. Best pick of the night. I love Jermaine Johnson falling to the Jets in that spot. I had Jermaine Johnson going in the top 10 in almost every mock simulation I did. I had him going in the top 10. So Jets had the best night, and they capped it off by having one of the best picks. I mean, Jermaine Johnson sliding into the mid-20s. Nobody would ever guess that. And I just think they really hit it out of the park.
Mitch?
Sadly, we're all on the same page. I have the Jets as doing the best in the draft. I was
we did good too. Come on,
Gardner, and they drafted the best corner that could have gone even higher than what they selected. and it's, he's elite and a position of need, and then they get the top wide receiver and a top 10 edge rusher, slam dunk, great for them.
Easy.
What do you think the best pick was, Mitch?
Gardner. I think the best pick was Gardner, in all actuality. I think he could have gone 1 or 2, and they get him at 4.
Steve?
Yeah, I have it what almost everybody else has. Almost. To me, it's a no-brainer, the Jets. I think this was an awesome draft. I was so happy to see so many players. I'm getting off topic. So many players. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm becoming a father of kids of a certain age. My older daughter is going to be going to college soon. It's I don't know if it's just happening to me, but seeing young men like Icky staying in state, Aiden Hutchinson staying in state, Trayvon Walker at number 1 going 40 miles south to Jacksonville. I don't know why. Like, it just made me happy. I feel like it's going to be like nice stories for these guys.
He's getting sentimental on us.
I am.
I know, man. You're gonna shake a tear out of there? No tears, no tears. Steve.
I'll tell you what. I almost shed a tear seeing Kayvon with the kid that they had for the Giants up there. But,
oh my goodness, that was awesome.
But I'm getting off topic. You guys deserve an answer. So there were actually some teams, including us, that I was like, wow, we had a good draft. But I was like blown away. One of my best friends is a Jets fan, and the whole night I'm texting him and I'm telling him, because I'm seeing ahead, right, of who's picking what, and I'm telling. And so Sauce at 4, Garrett Wilson. I mean, look, I happen to think the kid out of Alabama, Jameson, is the best when he's healthy, but I get it. A lot of people think Garrett Wilson's the best. He's another Stephon Diggs, the unbelievable route runner, fast hands, the whole package. But to get Jermaine Johnson and to have the intelligence, the preparation, the chutzpah to make that trade back in, because we saw how that blew up in Dave Gettleman's face when he did a trade back into the first, right? To trade back in and get Jermaine Johnson. Oh my God. Like, to me, that was the best pick of the draft of so far.
Yep.
That kid is a beast. And did any of you guys stay up? Did any of you guys stay up late enough to watch when they interviewed him on stage? He's a scary dude, man. You could tell he's got something missed, like in a good way, something up there. He's like, I'm gonna wreak some havoc, I think was his. So he's up there on stage, the cameras, the lights, the commissioner's off to his side, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna wreak some havoc when I get to New York. I was like, that guy is a bad dude. They got themselves a football player.
And he's played well against top talent too, Steve. I was watching some of his film. He did Iquanu dirty when they played last season. So
and he was on the field all game for a terrible team. Like, relatively speaking, that FSU team was terrible for
for their standards.
I mean, he didn't come off the field. He's a
no.
There must be something going on that we don't know why he fell. And it reminded me, and I'll shut up after this. It reminded me when Montez Sweat dropped. And I think with him, it was health issues. And Washington got Montez Sweat a couple years ago. You remember that, guys? And it was like, it was like this. They're getting a football player.
I did see.
I saw that interview, Banker, and how he opened up his jacket and showed, the long road that he went to.
Yeah.
From community college to Georgia to everywhere he went. So maybe I wonder, maybe that is part of the reason that he didn't go a little bit higher.
I did see a report. It's funny you mentioned that, Steve. I did see a report a couple of days ago. It was an anonymous report, so you never know how much of that is smoke. But it said that an edge rusher in this class did have some ties to the streets, let's say, and he was going to drop significantly. And as the draft went along and I seen him drop, like I said, don't know if it's true, but that was a hell of a drop for a talent like that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to answer my own question. The first part of that, as far as what I think the best pick was, I'm going to say Thibodeau. I'm going to tell you why. Number one, and Steve's my witness here. Look, I've been saying all off season, take the tackle at 5, lock it up, and then move on. And I've always been saying Neal. So Steve and I were texting through the first couple picks, most of the night, actually. When the Jets took Sauce, I had a moment where I said, Steve, let's take Thibodeau. And Steve was like, no, I don't know. I liked the pick number 1. It was a big need, great value. But number 2, Shane didn't panic.
Yep.
Both tackles were still there. He was able to get the edge and still get the best tackle in the draft at 7. So I thought that was the best pick because of what it set us up for at 7 and the way he played it. So, that was my pick of the night. All right, maybe I'm a little biased, but still, it is. Best, yeah, I can't argue. The Jets definitely had probably one of the best drafts. The Eagles had a great draft. Baltimore had a great draft. They are just so good at finding that talent that everybody overlooks or doesn't think is good fit, and maybe and they just get players. Hamilton and Linderbaum, that's a great first round.
Number one player at each position coming into the draft.
Great value.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Steve. I actually hope Wink is bringing some of that philosophy to the Giants. But I'm going to tell you, here's a pick that we haven't talked about, but I thought that was a great pick. I thought the Chargers taking Zion Johnson was a great pick. You've got a franchise quarterback. They had trouble protecting him last year. Now you've got the number one pick last year. Now you add Zion Johnson to that line. Boy, that offense is really setting up to be very well. That kid's going to win a Super Bowl eventually.
Can I go around real quick with just some quick yes or no questions? That way we can get through it.
Sure.
If the Giants take another stud edge rusher with their first pick in the second round, would you be what would your response be? One word or less. In one word, Mitch, Rob, Tommy, Carl. Mitch. Surprised. Rob?
Disappointed.
Okay, Tommy?
NASCAR.
I like that. Carl?
You got me.
Excited.
Okay. Because you got the kid from Penn State, you got Boye Mafe. There's a few.
Yep.
I was just like, wow. All right, so next question. And I'll give you my answer so you know where it's coming from. We talked about all the positives. We talked about grading, what we thought, blah, 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 blah. Is there one thing that frustrated you last night? And I'll tell you what mine was. Mitch, you said one of the things that shocked you was Kway Walker going ahead of the linebacker out of Utah. I wasn't shocked at all. And believe me, I understand the pedigree. The kid out of Utah is the number one linebacker coming out of college, in my opinion. But in terms of translation to the NFL, 2 podcasts in a row, Carl, I talked about how Kway Walker was my man crush. That's who I wanted to fall out of either him or Zion, which I thought was not likely. But if they came to the top of the second, that's the kid I wanted. Because we used to do a couple of, hey, who are the guys you want to fall out of the first for the Giants at the top of the second? And Kway Walker was my guy. Right. Oh, my God.
Right.
That was what frustrated me last night. So is there anything that frustrated any of you guys? So this is coming out of left field. So I don't know who wants to go first. Anything that frustrated you?
Not frustrated me, but I just wish Jacksonville would have taken Aiden Hutchinson.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't think I would say anything frustrated me. I'm not gonna lie. Listen, I give our draft an A+. I really was in love with Sauce Gardner. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. He would have been the perfect fit in the Wink Martindale press defense. I fell in love with the kid. I wasn't a big fan 2 months ago when I first started. We've had some bad luck with DBs in the first round, but I really fell in love with the kid. So when he went off the board, I was a little disappointed, but we knocked it right out of the park on the next pick, man. We got the second best edge and the top tackles. So it's really hard to have any frustrations.
But I agree, Sauce is special. My buddy who's a Jets fan was like, "Oh, I wanted this." I was like, his name's Mike Volpe. So if Mike is watching, I'm saying your name.
Shout out, Mike.
Volpe's like, "Oh man, I'm like, Mike, Sauce is special." All right, Mitch, anything frustrate you or disappoint you?
How could you be frustrated when you get Thibodeau and Neal? 2 months ago they were 1 and 2 basically in the draft, and you get them at 5 and 7. No frustrations at all, just celebrations.
Good answer. I was being greedy, so Carl, what about you, man? Anything frustrate or disappointing? At least coming into now day number 2. Anything frustrate or disappoint you?
The only thing that frustrated me was that the Jets and Eagles had good drafts.
Yeah.
That's my
That's
frustration.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's my frustration. Other than that, though, I thought it was a great first round. As a Giants fan, I haven't smiled like this since they won their last Super Bowl. We have hope. We have a leader. We've got direction. The arrow is clearly pointing up. And when was the last time we could all say that? So I'm pleased. It was a great night. I don't know what else to say. Look, anybody that followed me on Twitter last night, you're going to hear me say this again. Let's go. So I'm ready. I'm pumped. I'm really pumped.
And to caveat, and the reason is as much of a Giants fan as I am, I just also value and respect the game of football and strategy.
Yeah.
Agreed. So, guys, great job tonight. This is a great show, great first round. Looking forward to another great night, another long night. But love doing this, guys. And again, guys, thank you for your input. Love having you guys back.
Thank you.
You guys are great.
Thank you.
And
You guys are fantastic.
yeah,
I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
appreciate
nice
all
meeting you,
you
Tommy,
guys.
Mitch.
Nice meeting you guys. Did a fantastic job.
Yeah. Keep
I
up the
agree.
good work, guys, and we'll keep in touch, and we'd love to have you back. In the
Hey, this isn't goodbye because Fly Guy and the Banker, I'm gonna be tuned in and locked in onto your Twitter all night
Yeah.
long. So
Got a
let's
big
get it
night
going.
ahead, man. 3 picks tonight. We got a big
Let's
night.
get it going.
Yeah, no, we enjoy having all of you, and we'll look to have you guys all back in the future. So yeah, you're right. It's not goodbye. It's just goodbye for now. So long. That's what it is. So guys, thank you again. Everybody, thank you so much for your continued support and watching us, and hope you enjoy this as much as we did. And we'll see you again next week, guys. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great night. Enjoy round 2.
Go Giants.
Let's
Go
go.
Giants,
Giants.
baby.